All right, welcome back to Mind Over Emotions, the podcast. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Like the channel as well. And as always, follow us on Instagram at Mind Over Emotions underscore BDP and on TikTok at Mind Over Emotions, the podcast. Today, I'm excited. It's Mother's Day, and I got a special guest, my mom. She got 7 kids. How many grandkids?
12
12.
and a
Great.
half.
12. 12 and a half. So this should be a good episode. Try to get some insight on being a mom, being a grandma, and so let's get into it. Uh, First off, mom, I know you don't want to answer this, but how old are you?
57.
Ooh, she answered it quick. Also too. Usually we be drinking liquor, but my mom decided because it's kind of early in the day that she loves coffee, so we're gonna drink some coffee. So what are we drinking?
It's mocha latte.
Mocha latte. And if you want in the description, you'll see the link to buy this coffee cup. It's from my clothing brand. So the link will be in the description as well. So first, mom, let's take it back to when you were a kid. Describe your mom in one word.
Strong.
Why would you choose strong?
Strong because she was strong-willed, strong-minded. Um, if she wanted something, yeah, you couldn't stop her from doing it or getting it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, she was a very strong woman.
All right, and then you were the 14th kid, correct? 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's Uncle Sean been the 14th. Well, adopted, but yeah.
Right.
All right. So being the 14th and being technically the 13th and technically being the only kid, unfortunately, how was that growing up?
Being an only child was okay. You hear people say being an only child is lonely. You don't have nothing to do. Um, I'm a loner. I've always been a loner, so it didn't really bother me to be an only child. Um, had a lot of love from my parents, grandparents, um, my aunts, and everything. So it was, I guess it was fun. It was fun. I was like you said, my parents' only child. My mother had 12 miscarriages before me. Well, they call them miscarriages now, but she got to 6 months and then her water bag would break and she had 7 boys and 5 girls. They all passed. So I was the only one. So I guess in that sense, you could say I was spoiled because, you know, with what she had went through. But my childhood was, I can't complain.
Did anything about your childhood make you decide you want to be a mom, or make you internally think like, oh, no, I don't want to be a mom?
Um, okay, I always wanted to have 4 kids. I wanted 2 girls, 2 boys, but all girls go through that. I want the kids, the husband, the house, all that stuff. Um, I wouldn't say anything in my childhood did that I can think of that
Okay.
got me there. That got me to the point where I would have. Well, I wasn't expecting to have as many as I did. Uh, that's for sure. But um, no, I can't say it was because I was lonely or anything like that. I wanted to. I mean, I did want, if I did have a child, I did want them to have somebody to play with. Like I said, I wanted the 4 or at least 2.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say it was my childhood. It's just something.
And how old were you when you had your first kid?
I was 16, 3 days before my 17th birthday.
And that's my oldest sister.
Yes.
Big shout out to Cora. Actually, so funny story before we get into the rest of it. So funny story of growing up. My mom always told us that she had 7 kids, so we all owed her 7 kids. And so my oldest sister, she used to say all the time she didn't want no kids. And then ironically, she's the only one with 7 kids. So it's kind of funny how that. If you don't want kids, just say you want kids, so that way maybe you don't have them. I guess that's what you did.
Right.
But so when you had her, in a sense, you were a teenage parent. How was it being a teenage parent?
Um, it was difficult. It was because a lot of things, and this is no shade on my mother, but a lot of things she didn't teach me as far as how to be a mom. You know, um, and her way of mothering was different than I wanted to mother. You know what I'm saying? So she didn't give me like the little things. that you kind of pick up being a mom. She didn't, it was with her. It was just she was just enjoying me. You know what I'm saying? So she didn't take the time to be like, oh well, at some point she might be a mom, and we never got to that point. And like I said, there was no, no shade on her or anything. It just never happened. So a lot of my parenting came from trial and error, as well as I have one friend. I got a shout out to her, Julie, Julie Williams. She was a teenage parent as well. I met her. I want to say a year or so before I had Quetta. Um, Met her, and she already had children. So I just kind of watched what she did, and then when I had Jaquetta, she really like took me under her arm, and she's like, okay, this is how I do, this is how I bathe my kids, or this is how, this is how I get them dressed, and how just the little things. Um, she taught me a lot of that, and then like I said, trial and error. You have to learn your child. You know what I'm saying? So I can mirror somebody else all day long, but my child is not their child. So you have to mother accordingly.
Right. Now, before we keep it, before I forgot a real good question for you. Being a single kid, yeah, the only child, and then obviously grandma decided to adopt.
Mhm.
How did that affect
It didn't bother me. Okay, so we adopted him from Trinidad. We went on vacation, and it's this little boy crawling. He hadn't quite started walking yet, but he just like attached to us. It's like everywhere we went, he wanted to go cry after us and stuff. So honestly, in my head, it was like, oh, it's a little baby doll, somebody to play with.
you?
I was not. I think I just turned 11. Yeah, just turned 11, and so he was fun to play with or whatever, real cool. So when she said his mother, his birth mother, you know how you play around, you'd be like, oh, he's so cute, can I have him? Like that. People do that all the time. She was like, yeah, you can. And we're like, wait, what? Yeah, like what? Because over there, it was life was harder, so
Yeah.
she wanted a better life for him or whatever. So my mom was like, okay, stop playing or whatever. She's like, no, seriously, you can take him. So, like I said, my mother, being the strong-willed person she was, she set her goal on getting him, and we had him, and it was less than a year. He hadn't turned one yet, and just having another child in the house, I guess because of the age difference, it didn't really bother me too much. You know what I'm saying? That he was theirs. I'm still gonna do what I'm gonna do, but my little brother. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'll say from experience, I know when I was born, and I can remember growing up. I think separating between uncle and brother was kind of difficult
Mhm.
because to me he was like a big brother. He was more like raised as like one of
Because I
us.
raised him.
Yeah, so like I know like for a while there, I didn't it didn't even register that he was like our uncle until
Mhm.
because he was so close in age to us, and I mean we all kind of did everything together like siblings.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because
but
I raised him.
yeah,
I did. Back when he turned 8, he moved in with me.
Let me ask you this: do you think that? Because I know that was very common growing up back in the day. I hate to say back in the day, but like before, very common. Like for even with us as kids, like in a sense, Quetta kind of like did a lot of raising of us too. Um, no shade on you or anything, but it's just how it goes. Because I think it's like the community. Like you guys have to go work and do all that, and so a lot of responsibility falls on the older sibling to like watch out for us.
Mhm.
But I think these days that's kind of like a lost thing. A lot of this older siblings kind of
Yeah.
like don't take their kids under, I mean their siblings under their wing and mentor them and
Mhm.
raise them. I think maybe I don't know. You can give me your opinion, but I think my opinion is that that's a part of the reason why uh, the world isn't the way it is now. Because we don't have the siblings looking out for each other. There's no kind of like as a big brother, me things that I teach my brothers is very important. You know, the things that parents teach. Like this. Better yet, it's easy to say this way. You know how they say like like your parents can tell you something 1,000 times, but it takes somebody else to tell you before you
Mhm.
actually clicks.
Right.
And a lot of times, that older sibling is that person who it kind of clicks with.
You
You
would
know,
hope it would be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Versus people in the
Right.
streets. But I think that now it's this. The world is just teaching everybody, all these kids, what to do, what to think, and life. So would you say that you think that that's a lost thing?
Yes, I do. I do because I think the family unit is different, which every generation though it changes. I would say every generation the family unit changes. Um, in my sense, being a single parent, you know what I'm saying. I guess I didn't. I wanted to raise you guys to be able to take care of yourself. I always looked at it like, I'm not gonna be here forever. You never know what could happen. So I wanted, if anything happened to me, I wanted you all to be close knit, close to each other and have each other as well as know how to take care of yourself. I didn't want my sons to have to depend on, a woman to do things that quote unquote a woman does. You know what I'm saying? Wash your clothes, clean your house, all that kind of stuff. So I taught all of y'all to do that. Same with the girls. I wasn't like prepping them to be parents, but they still needed to know. They needed to know that kind of thing. Um, and because of the way I'm hoping the way that I raised you, that's why Quetta stepped in, where when she did or how she did. It wasn't like she was cooking and cleaning. You know what I'm saying? But
She literally just took us under her wing.
Yeah.
I know, like in the time back then, I remember a lot of times we kind of rebelled against what she said, and she probably felt like we weren't listening to her. But I'll speak for me. A lot of the things that she reinforced from you guys, from parents, but just from the things that she experienced, like I'll take it to school, like like the stuff that she experienced going through school. Like when I went to high school with her, even though she was like she had a sister who was a grade below her, and then now a junior when she was a senior, and then now a brother who's a freshman. She wanted to do her senior things and kind of transition into being an adult. But she never, I'll say for me, she never left me uh, out to dry. Like if I needed any kind of guidance at school or any kind of help, like she was always there, always protecting me. I could even recall her even physically protecting me. She was never afraid to fight for her brothers and sisters. So um, I just think that unit as a from the kids is very lost. A lot of these brothers and sisters out here, they be beefing and they don't even defend each other in the streets. I know for us, we might fight at home, but when it comes to the streets, like you might beat one of us, but you have to fight the rest of us. You're gonna keep fighting until we win. So but so being a single mom, was it ever like something for you that you was like, okay, I need to, get a dad for them? Did you feel like that was very important, or did you feel like that you were good on your own, and if it happened to happen, it is what it is?
So did I feel that you needed one? No, not really. I wanted you to have a father because I had a father. You know what I'm saying? I had both parents in the home, and I wanted that for you all. Unfortunately, it could be, you know, biological, but I did. Um, you know what I'm saying? I tried. Put it that way,
I will say
tried.
this before you get into that. I'm gonna say this too. I know it's Mother's Day,
Mhm.
but I will say that as a boy, I know that me and our stepdad we bumped heads, but I loved him.
Mhm.
I still do. He's
Mhm.
still here. I still do, and I respect him for stepping in. So I just wanted that to be on record. Hopefully he watches this, but um, I think that he did a good job. So I will say, people might give you shade, but I say that I think that you know you chose a guy who was willing to step up and put in the effort to raise us. He taught me a lot of things, so I think you did good on that. Don't beat yourself up for that part.
Well, like I said, I think it was important to have a father figure. I'll just say father figure because even if I hadn't gotten married or what I'm saying or anything like that, I still wanted you to have uh, you know uh, a respectable person, a man that could teach you how to be a man. Because we women, we can we can do our best. There's some things we just honestly we can't teach y'all that they can't because they're men.
Yeah.
Duh. You know what I'm saying? But I do say that a woman can raise a man. I will not take that away. We
So
can.
you think that a woman can raise a male into being a man?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. Um, as
So
long as you,
society thinks you can.
yeah, right. But you can as long as you have to. When you're a single parent, you're playing both roles anyway. So if you're gonna play both roles, you really got to play both roles. You can't just, you know, just I'm your mother and that's it. I'm not gonna say I'm your father, but I'm gonna. How can I put this? Um, when it comes to discipline, and I'll just use that as an example. There's there's a way that I would that a mother would discipline in a nurturing way. I'm gonna talk to you and da da. But then the father is gonna rain down hellfire on you. You know what I'm saying? So you can play both those roles. I did. Would you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's possible. It's easier and it's better. It's better for the boy to have that man. Have that male figure. But if it's not available, because okay, I put it to you this way: if you guys were small now, I don't know anyone that that I would trust. To impart that into you, because it's an impartation. They're putting something. They're teaching. They're putting stuff into you. You know what I'm saying? I don't know anybody really that I would trust to do that. So that's when parenting comes in. Being a parent, it's like, okay, do I want this person to to have anything to do with my child, or do I not? If you don't, then that's when you, as a mother, you step up. You got to play both roles.
All right, so I got a tough question for you, Mom.
Oh boy.
So as a mom, what's something about mother being a mom that you're most proud about, and what's your biggest regret over the years of being a mom? So obviously you've been a mom for what 39 years,
40.
40. Dang, Claire. Uh, so for 40 years you've been a mom. So what's something that you can think of, like, if you could go back, you'd be like, you might do different, and then what's something that you think that was like your proudest mom moment, like, like, not something because you did because that we achieved, but like something on your end that you're like, I'm proud that I did that, and it's probably the best thing you've done as a mom.
Okay, my proudest thing is keeping you all together. Being young, being a young mother. I mean, there's a lot of young mothers now that be like, oh, I don't want to do this. You know what I'm saying? They go to the clinic or they go to the adoption agency. It's like, I can't do this. Or they give them to the grandparents.
And to piggyback that, and you never lost us to the state.
Right. So that, I think that would be my proudest moment, is that I kept y'all together. It was hard. It was hard. It was a lot of, even to this day, some things I do regret that I wish I could have done for you guys. But I, the one thing I will say, what I never lacked in doing, is loving you guys. I might not have been able to give you everything that you wanted, but I gave you my love. You know what I'm saying? And I was determined that I was going to keep you guys together, no matter what. Regret, probably that I couldn't, you know, do the stuff that I wanted to do for you. I think my biggest regret as a mother, it might sound uh, trivial, is I wanted to take all of you all on a vacation. Just, I mean, we did. We had, our road trips and stuff like that. But no, just, get on the plane or boat, wherever we was going to go, and just go for on a vacation. You know what I'm saying? Not, have to drive where we needed to go. And, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not going to visit some family. Just go somewhere and just
Escape almost.
right. Just us together. You know what I'm saying? That was probably be my only regret.
All right. So the last question for you on that topic is, what's one of the most rewarding things that you've experienced as a mom?
Watching you all become parents.
Why?
Huh?
Why is that?
I don't know. That to me. Well, I don't know if that would be really rewarding. But watching you guys, that really does. It really has blessed me. Watching you all become parents. Watching you as parents. You know what I'm saying? I have all these grandchildren from my first 3 children. By the way, you guys, my other 4 haven't given me grandchildren.
I need to step it up.
But I mean, you guys are doing great. They really don't have to.
No, they do.
But,
you said 7 kids, seven grandkids.
Yeah.
So that's 49.
Yeah, that's not. I know that's not going to happen, but still. But no, watching you all as parents, the rewarding thing is, you're all successful. You're all, you're thriving. You know what I'm saying? So that would be the most rewarding thing, from where we came from to where you guys are now. Watching you make the accomplishments. I mean, you've been in the military, you're a trainer, you have a podcast. You know what I'm saying? With Quetta, she's got these degrees. She's an awesome mother, with Nate. And I'm just using you three right now because you guys are the parents.
Yeah.
But Nate, she's a therapist. She, got all these degrees and
is she a model too?
Huh?
You're a model too?
Yeah, she just won't say it, but she's a
I be seeing her on the
I
ground.
know.
She's a model.
She's beautiful. She's a model.
Shout out to my older sisters, man.
They are.
And all you guys watching this, man, don't be going to look on their Instagrams. They both, one's happily married, the other one, she's happy. So leave her alone.
But
so I'm just curious. So on Mother's Day, before we get to the serious stuff, on Mother's Day, can you think of a Mother's Day that was like the most special to you?
no, because they all were. I can't.
What I mean by that is like, one that sticks out the most. Like, you had maybe you got like you got taken to some place you liked, or you got a gift that you can remember, like it was a stick that stands out.
Okay, let me think. That like you said, I've been a mother for 40 years, so that's a lot to file cabinet. It's a lot of.
While she's thinking, so this coffee cup, guys, that I mentioned at the beginning, as you know, as you heat it up, it changes colors, right? As it gets colder, it goes back to the original color. So just want to let you guys know that. Pick it up.
Well, actually, one that sticks with me is trying to think of the year. It's probably I'm gonna say 2023, 2020, 2013, 2013 or 2014, somewhere around there. Um, it was the youngest three, TJ, J, and I think Jay. No, none of them had jobs or anything, but they had saved their money, and we had just got an apartment, so they had saved their money, and they got me all my favorite things. They got me the big Hershey bar, that's my thing, big Hershey bar, and they got me a flower. I think it was a rose. They got me a rose, and I think each one of them gave me a flower, and then they made a card, and they put it together. Those are the things that I like. The personal cards when y'all used to draw cards and make the cards and stuff for me. I love those. Store bought cards are wonderful. I love them. Don't get me wrong. They can say what it is, but usually in the cards, when y'all make cards, you always put how you really felt in the cards.
More heartfelt.
Yeah, and I probably still have them fixed.
So as a grandma, how's it being a grandma?
I love it.
Wow. What's the difference? What's the biggest difference? And I know you're gonna probably say because you get to send them home. Besides that, what's the biggest the difference between being a grandma and being an actual mom?
Okay, so I enjoyed you guys when you were small. I really, honestly, y'all could just stay small forever. I would have been happy if you didn't have to grow up because I loved y'all as little babies. But to see, I think the joy for me is it's like almost getting a second chance at that. You know what I'm saying? Because you're all grown and whatever. But seeing you guys in your children, I love it. And I see it. You know what I'm saying? And then you can also see little pieces of yourself. I can see little pieces of myself in each one of them too. And it's amazing to me. You know what I'm saying? It's amazing. And even though they have their parents, they have the fathers, different, mothers or whatever, I still can see, like you with Kylie, you with Jalen, you with Kate, all I can see all of you, you and all of them. And same thing with Quetta, all 7 of hers. I can see little pieces of her in all of them. So that's the rewarding thing to me. It's like having a second chance with you guys.
All right, so it's time for me to be vulnerable. So obviously I'm her oldest son. So what kind of advice would you give me as a father? From what you've seen as me as a father to date, what advice would you give? Honest, truth advice. I'm okay with being vulnerable.
That's a good one.
The reason why I'm asking this question is because it's Mother's Day. It's not Father's Day. Hopefully Father's Day I can have a father on here, maybe my father or stepdad or somebody on here, and they can give me some advice as a father. But from a mom, you've seen me as a father in person. You've seen me, social media. You see me how I am as a father. What advice, criticism, whatever, would you give me?
It's not. That's a good question. Um, because honestly, and I'm not just being biased because I'm your mother. You do a great job as a father. You do. You do a great job as a father. From Jalen all the way to Kate to Kylan. Hmm. Oh
There you
no.
have it, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Father of the
stuff.
year.
Nah.
No, I'm joking. I'm just messing.
No, you do a great job. You're hands on. You're a hands on father. Um, um, that's a good question, son. We're gonna have to circle back around to that
Let's
one
circle back to it.
because yeah, I
All
have
right,
to think
so
about that.
obviously things are different from when you was raising us to now in 2025. Growing up, actually, somebody wanted me to ask you this. One of my supporters wanted me to ask you this. Why did parenting back then? Why did you find it important to send your child outside to pick its own switch?
I wanted you to experience everything. No. Why did I feel it was important to pick the switch? I could need to ask my mom that because I mean I had to pick my own switch too. I wish I could ask her that. I mean, we want you to feel it. You know what I'm saying? You want to feel everything because we already know you're gonna go out there and pick
The littlest
the
one.
littlest switch out there. You know what I'm saying? That's why you got the disclaimer. You come back in here with the littlest switch, you're gonna make it worse for yourself. You know what I'm saying? So, but no, it's just to make you feel the whole experience. Dang, I go out here, you looking at the long switch, you know that's what you're gonna get. So, you know what I'm saying? Just that whole experience, yeah, because that's what it was for me. I was like, dang, I'm gonna get hit with one of these out here. That's make you think about what you did.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of.
So, would you say that because obviously back a lot your generation, you guys get criticized for how you guys chastise us. I think even my generation, but definitely your generation and the generation before you, like your parents and stuff. But do you think that would you say that that's the reason why one of the reasons why the world's in the state it is right now because of the lack of chastising?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Because here's what's funny, it's like even with religion, right? They always talk about I'm a Christian, but then they or I hate to throw Christians out there, but I'm whatever, and then they choose not to chastise their child, right? But I think that goes along with how they always say you pick and choose what part of the religion you want to listen to because definitely the Bible. I know for sure in the Bible it says spoil the rod, spoil the child, right? So you should be, I think that's the problem with the world and especially the U.S. They've taken God out of the U.S. because how can you have in God we trust and all that on the dollar and everything like that, but then you're telling parents, oh, you're gonna go to jail if you whoop your child.
Right.
No, the Bible says, you know, but even you take away the chastiser thing, you put on the kid. It says in the Bible, it says, "Children obey your parents." For this is, I forget the rest of it,
Right.
but you know what I mean. Ephesians 6:1. I know that part.
Right.
We had to write it so many times. But I personally think that that's one of the downfalls of today's society and community is that everybody is either so afraid to chastise their child, but then you have also this. We just talked about the gym. What do they call it? The pretty much the nice parents or whatever.
The soft parents.
Soft parenting. There you go.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna whip my kids.
They
It's
wanna be
resulted
their
in
friend.
what?
They want to be their child's friend.
So to those parents, the soft parents, what would you say to them? If you had one sitting right here right now and they told you, yeah, I'm a gentle parent. Like I don't
That's
believe.
it. Gentle
Yeah,
parent.
gentle parent. What would your rebuttal be back to them?
They say they want a gentle parent and they don't want to, chastise the child. Um, we'll just get ready for what's coming. That would be my response. So get ready for what's coming because it tells you to train up a child in the way that they should go. They're children, right? Yes, they're not stupid, so they understand when you tell them stuff. But if you have to tell a child something more than 3 times, you know what I'm saying? You have to rewind. Remember when I said at the beginning when you have to learn your child? You have to learn your child. There are some children that gentle parenting works for. They work for. Quetta would be a perfect example of that. She would have been perfect with gentle parenting because I raised my voice at her, she just fell apart. But she did what I told her to do. Your other sister, not so much. She would, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes even you and Quetta kind of was equal on that. You know what I'm saying? It's like I didn't have to do too much. You got whippings because there was times when you just was like rebellious.
Yeah.
Um, so I would tell a gentle parent, I would tell them, I hope that you have learned your child and that this will work for you, but if not, get ready for what's coming because you have to train up a child when they're small. You start when they're small. And if you just, put you in timeout, okay, what does timeout really do?
Growing up, you guys used to have a saying about timeout.
Yeah, the timeout I take from whipping your tail. That's
That was
that
one.
was my saying.
That was one thing you said that I remember you guys used to always say. It's like a timeout, giving them time to think about what they're gonna do next or something like that.
Right. That's what basically timeout is. It's like, okay, I'll sit here. They mad, but I'm like, okay, when I get up, then I'm gonna go on and do something else. If I might not do that, but I'm gonna do something else. Then they'll circle back around to the first thing that they got in timeout for. But if you associate, it's just like if you put a child put their hand on fire, it hurts, right? So they're not gonna do it. That's the same thing as spanking. If I tell you don't run out in the street, if you keep running out in the street, I can keep telling you this 100 times until you either get hit by a car, which is what we don't want, or I pop you. That's when you're gonna be like, okay, doing that associated to pain, I'm not doing it anymore. That's the whole purpose of whooping or spankings or whatever you want to call it. That's the thing. You associate it with pain. Most children get that. It's like, oh, adults get it.
That's why we used to always say, I don't hear none of the kids these days saying this. We used to always say, I'm scared of my mama. Like, I'm not trying to get whooped by my mom.
Right.
Like, you be out with your friends and y'all get ready to do something crazy, and your mom popping your head like that, whooping you gonna get when you get home.
Exactly.
Or, punch me, you'll get home. Nowadays, they go home and they get their iPads back, or nothing happens to their parents are like, oh, that sucks. Like, don't go to jail.
Right.
So they're not afraid. They're not afraid of police because they shoot
Mhm.
them.
Right.
They're not afraid of police. They're not getting nothing done to them at home. So they're just
They
kind
have
of
no
like,
fear.
they have no fear. Yeah, that's why these kids are fearless. They just do what they want because they have nothing, no consequences for their actions.
Right. No repercussions for any actions that they do. So, yeah, that's what I would tell a general parent. Be ready. I hope if you know your child, if that works for you, fine. But if not, good luck. Cause good luck because you're gonna catch hell later.
So they always say that when a woman and you have a daughter, it's hard on you. Do you think that it was harder raising a boy versus raising your sons versus raising your daughter?
Harder raising the boys.
Or the girls? Which
The
one do you think
girls.
was harder? The girls?
The girl.
Why is that?
Because I was raising myself. With
See,
mine,
I guess it's true.
With mine, I was raising me. You know what I'm saying? They each have a piece of me in them. I can see it.
But what's the difference? What would you say is like the significant difference between raising a son and raising a daughter?
Okay, I can only speak on the mother's aspect. When it comes to your boys, everybody says, "Oh, you're always easy on the boys. You're always easy on the boys." No, what the reason why it seems we're harder on the girls is because we're women, so we know what they're gonna have to go through. What they're gonna be facing. So yeah, we're gonna be harder on them. It's like a lot of things we're not gonna let them do that we might let you guys do because it's different. You're different. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we're harder on. I can only speak for myself. I was harder on my girls because I know what I went through. I had some things happen to me when I was young. You know what I'm saying? That I was determined it wasn't going to happen to mine. To my girls, my daughters, and stuff. So yeah, I was harder on my daughters, and I don't regret it. They might not like me for it. I love you, but I don't regret it because I mean, look at them. You see how your sisters are. They're awesome. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't go through. They went through. They had stuff that they went through. But I guess me being younger, the stuff that I went through, didn't want them to go through what I went through. I knew they were going to have to go through stuff, but I didn't want them to go through what I went through. So I was harder on them to make sure that they were, clean. They knew how to take care of themselves. That type of thing. I did the same thing with you all, but it was different. You know what I'm saying? You can't raise boys and girls the same. You just can't. So
How difficult do you think it was to find the balance between? Because I see now with parents, moms and dads, they try so hard to be the cool parent.
mhm.
And I think growing up, like you were the cool parent. Everybody, all of our friends, and even people who weren't our friends, they were kind of like attached and call you mom, and you're like, who are you? But how difficult do you think it is, or did you find it to become like the cool mom, have that balance between being the cool mom, the strict mom, like the balance between it? Because I think the line used to be at one point. I think it was pretty black and white. That it kind of got a little blurred, and it's like you could kind of be like the cool mom and the strict mom, and then now it's kind of like just a cool gentle parenting. That's just gentle parent is like being your kid's best friend.
Right.
So how do you? Because you're like they're perfect. You're like right in the middle of both generations. Like your mom and them, it was like strict,
Mm-hmm.
and then this generation is like super lax.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like in the middle. How did you find that balance? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like how difficult was it for you, and what did you do to find that balance?
I tried to learn my children. It all to me that all circles back. That is one of the most important things of being a parent. You have to take the time to learn your child. Period. So being a cool parent, I wanted you guys to look at me as a person that you could come to talk to about anything. Absolutely anything. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I also wanted you to know that I'm still your mom. You know what I'm saying? I'm still your parent. You still have to do what I say. You know what I'm saying? We can have fun. We can laugh. We can joke. You can come to me with your jokes. Because, I mean, y'all, some of the jokes and stuff y'all tell me, it's just like a lot of people would be like, "You saying that to your mom?" You know what I'm saying? But I wanted to be your friend. Yes, I want to be your friend. I want you to look at me as your friend. But also know that, hey, I can go this far. You know what I'm saying? And that she's still mama. But finding that balance was just a matter of knowing, because some of y'all would push it push it to the edge. That's when the strict parent have to step in. So it's really a lot about learning each one of y'all. You know what I'm saying? That was a job. You
So
know.
that leads me into what I was going to ask you next, which is obviously this podcast is about mental health. So having 7 kids over a span of pretty much 40 years, raising kids, raising grandkids, uh, how has that affected your mental health? Like,
Hmm. It's up and down. Um, some days I feel like I didn't do enough. You know what I'm saying? It feels like I could have done a whole lot better on a whole lot of things, and I beat myself up about it.
is
So
that
I get
something
into
that
it.
you think that is projected onto you, or you think that's something that's intrinsically within you? Like you think that this just something that's within you that you just feel that way, or you think that maybe uh, we projected towards you?
Both.
Oh,
Hmm. It has been projected on me. It has. And then too, I just know that there's more. I don't know, but I feel like there was, maybe if I had did this or if I did that, um, because like I say all the time, you guys are my oxygen, y'all my world, y'all all have. So now, with you being grown and it being projected on me, it's like I beat myself up a lot. It's like, man, maybe I should have did this, or maybe I should have done that, and that will depress me. It'll have me in a state of depression because it's like I can't go back and fix that. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? You know that I'm a fixer. Whenever y'all got into a problem, here I come. Keep on. I'm ready to fix it. You know what I'm saying? So I can't go back and fix it. And it's like, so I'll beat myself up. Like, what can I do now to try to rectify, you know what I'm saying? To rectify it. But in some cases, it's too late. So that bothers me. And it does mess with my mental because it's like, I'll beat myself up. You know what I'm saying? I beat myself about it.
So obviously, like you said, you can't go back and you can't change it. And like you said, some situations it might be a little too late, which I don't think that it's ever really too late.
Right.
So let's just say that like it's never too late. While we're still breathing, we still share the same blood. There's room to talk about it and grow from it. We all obviously, whatever it may be, we're all healthy. We're all thriving. So it didn't kill us.
Right.
So we should be able to find some kind of common ground. Uh, and move forward through it because we're family. That's a whole other topic. But what kind of things do you do? Because you can't control, for instance, like with us, you can't control how we respond and how we, you know, handle situations. The only thing you can control is you. So, what kind of things do you do to uh, protect your mental and to keep yourself mentally strong? Because, like I said, you can't control what we do, how we feel.
I started journaling. Honestly, I started journaling, started writing my poetry, get it all out. That's the way I get it out. Because I'm not an orator, as they say. You know what I'm saying? I'm not good at talking my feelings out very well. So I started journaling. I pray a lot, and I have to, I really take the time to sit and think, okay, yeah, I messed up. I might have messed up on that. I might have done a jacked up job on this one particular thing when they were younger. But I have to remember, I have to look at you now. It's like, okay, you did something right. I know I didn't do everything right. I know that. But I did something right because, like I said before, you got to thriving. You're successful. You know what I'm saying? You're healthy. You know what I'm saying? So I'm learning that. But I just recently learned to do that because I used to never do that. I would just continue. It would just get heavier and heavier. Oh, you know what I'm saying? I would stress myself out and just be depressed. But I said, no, I need to write it how I feel. I just write it out. I'll write it out a lot of times, tear it out. I'll read it, write it out, read it, tear it up, and throw it away because I just had to get it out of me. You know what I'm saying? So I've learned that, and praying and just reflecting on, yeah, Janine, you aren't perfect. You know what I'm saying? But beating yourself up. You're not perfect. You didn't know what you were doing as a parent. You know what I'm saying? I was winging it, honestly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was winging it. I was trying my best to learn you guys, trying to keep you guys together, kind of trying to make sure you had something to eat, clothes on your back. You know what I'm saying? And so,
You know what? I was just having this conversation the other day. It's kind of crazy how you can ask a mom a question about herself and she struggles to answer. But you ask a true mom who's invested in her children, ask them their child's social security number.
mhm.
Ask them anything like like, oh, how old were they when they started walking? How old were they when they were potty trained? How old were they when they lost their first tooth? They can answer these kind of questions, but if you ask them like, so, whatever they about themselves, they struggle. And I recently found out that that's called mom brain.
Mom brain.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I found that out it's called mom brain.
Okay.
Do you think you suffer from mom brain?
Yeah,
Yeah, you
big
did.
time. I do. Why you say that?
I literally just asked you a question about earlier. You said that's a good question. And you struggle.
Yeah.
But then I asked you about us, and I know for a fact if I ask you a question like about us, like how was I when I got my tonsils removed?
Let me see. I'm going down the line. Hold on. 4.
Yeah. Because it was the beginning of 1992. when I got my tonsils removed. I remember that.
Beginning of '92.
Yeah, I was 4.
Yeah. It
and-
was because we're
in Alaska. Yeah.
Okay.
So before we wrap this episode up, I want to ask that too. How was it growing up in Alaska?
Oh, I had fun. I had a ball. People be talking about nothing to do here in the country. No, I had a ball. So as a kid, um, wintertime, we still had fun in wintertime. We found things to do. We still try to ride our bikes on the ice and stuff. Just crazy, just kid stuff. Summertime, that was the bomb because, the street light thing, y'all lived under the end by the street lights.
The streetlights came out way later.
We didn't have any street lights on my street, first of all. And the sun stayed up 24 hours, you know what I'm saying? Not up, but it was daylight 24 hours. So if our parents were outside or they were still up, we could stay out. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So that was fun. But it was cool. As a teenager, got into trouble just like everybody else, being sneaky. You know what I'm saying? Partied, had a ball. I honestly can say I had more fun in Alaska from my teenage to even my adult time, going like to the clubs and all that kind of stuff. I had more fun in Alaska than I did in all these other East Coast states that I've lived in, I had more fun. That's crazy, right? But
Not really. I mean, I feel like, I mean, for you, not really, because that was home. You lived there for like
yeah,
what, 22 years straight.
yeah,
So you're around all your people. You're home. You know,
yeah,
these other places, kind of like it's like kind of like going on vacation. Like you have fun, but you're kind of like going to these numbers because you're
yeah,
like, I
yeah.
don't
That
know
was fun.
nobody. I don't know what kind of stuff goes on around here. Like over
Mm-hmm.
there, you know, like if certain people come in, you're like, okay, yeah,
Trouble.
yeah. Let me go ahead and switch to the bar down the street. You know, but
Yeah, that makes sense.
first, before we get into the closing, I want to say to you guys, if y'all haven't noticed already, I am sitting in my guest chair. Uh, so all you kids out there, make sure you respect your parents. Let them get, you know, the front seat in the car. You know, have the driver's seat. You know, she chose that she wanted to sit on the couch, so she's the only guest who's ever going to come on here and put me in the guest chair. In our closing, per usual, what kind of advice would you give to a new mom, a mom out there who's struggling with parenting, being a mom? What kind of advice would you give to the mothers out
I said it throughout the whole podcast. Take the time to learn your child. It'll make it easier on you. Um, and the most important thing is give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. Like I said, I just learned to start doing that. But give yourself grace. You don't know everything. You're not gonna know everything. You don't, like they say, you don't get a book when you have a baby. You don't get a book. You're thrown into it. But it is the most rewarding. I hated school, but that's the one thing I loved learning was to be a mother. So just give yourself grace, though. You're gonna make mistakes, but you're supposed to. If you were perfect in it, you know what I'm saying, that's impossible to be a perfect mother. But give yourself grace. Take care of yourself. Um, yes, we always put our children first, and that's what we do as mothers. We put you guys first, but you still got to take time for yourself. If it's when you put them to bed, get the child to bed. If that means go, in there take a bath if you can, or whatever. Just do something for yourself every day, not once a week, once a month. Every day, find if it's nothing but 10 minutes. If you like to read for 10 minutes. If you like music, turn on your music for 10 minutes. Take care of them, get the baby straight, of course, but you gotta take care of yourself because if you don't, you'll you'll crack. Um, and I know that for a fact because I got to the point where, when I was married and I had all, had all. I didn't have enough yet, but I had 6 y'all at the time, and I got lost. I was, Blue or the wife, honey, whatever, and mom. Janine got lost in there. I lost myself for a span of years, and it's really hard to get yourself back. You know what I'm saying? That's when people start calling you selfish and and you didn't do this and you didn't do that because you have to maintain who you are, still being a parent, being a mom. That's one of the most important things because if you lose yourself, you either take a long time to get yourself back. Some people never make it back, and if something happens to that child, their life is literally over. You know what I'm saying? That's where the mental health thing comes in. You have to take that time for yourself. If you wrap your entire world around your child, and God forbid something happens to that child, you have nothing left. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that would be my advice. Learn your child, give yourself grace, and take care. Take time for yourself.
there? What do you think about the podcast?
I love it. I've watched all the episodes, and if you haven't, you need to go and watch them. But yeah, and I'm not just saying that because he's my son. They are good. They're good. I love the podcast. I love what you got going on. Your what is the word I'm looking for? Not your focus.
Purpose?
The purpose. Yes, that's not the word, but that's basically what it is. The purpose for the podcast. I love it. I absolutely love it. We need that. People need to be able to have a place, a safe space to come and get stuff off their chest,
Yeah.
And tell their story because there's some.
Not to cut you off, but I've been telling people recently too. You don't have to think of it when if you think about coming on a podcast or you're scared about coming on. You don't have to think about it as like a therapy thing or you just telling your business. Um, it's up to you about what you want to express on here. And I've told people recently, You don't know how long you have on this earth, right? So why not get your story out on record on the internet where it's out forever, and your kids can always go back and say, "Hey, this is my mom, this is my dad, this is their story," and they know your story. Because if not, they just have all the memories that you told them, versus they can have this video, you know. So why not go out and tell your story? Plus, like I always say, somebody's gonna be watching, and everybody's story you can learn something from. You can learn something from their story, whether you're male, female, whether you guys share the same age group, whether you share the same nationality or not. You can pick something from it to learn something from. Whether if you're a guy watching a female talking, you learn something about females to learn something to help you in your relationships or with your child, or vice versa, women to men. So don't be afraid to come on a podcast. I would love to have you on. And in the close, I'd like to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, to the grandmothers out there. You guys have your own day, but Happy Mother's Day, because you can't have a mother without having a grandmother, and so on and so forth. And to all you mothers, make sure you guys take this advice from a 40-year vet mom and grandma. And you guys be safe. Take care of your mental health. Love y'all. Subscribe to the channel and share it to all your mothers and your friends. Be blessed.